Okay, everybody, it is Sunday, June 15th, 2025. We've had an incredible weekend with the Israeli Iranian war. Want to go over a couple things with that and just a couple quick points on Ukraine, and then I will get into the main point of the video. The main topic of the video I want to talk about is what is the end game with Iran. First, couple things, just want to do a couple quick updates. One, if you've been following the Russo-Ukrainian war has kind of fallen out of the news because of this, but the Ukrainians over the last few weeks have hit several Russian chemical production plants, and they are ones that make things, chemicals used for explosives, ammunition, rocket fuel, things like that. And this appears to be a sustained and deliberate campaign by the Ukrainians to screw up Russia's supply chains by knocking out chemical production. Um, excuse me. Chemical production tends to be very concentrated in a relatively small number of plants. Those plants tend to have a lot of explosive and toxic chemicals in them. So you start making things go boom there, and it tends to be very difficult to fix and also fairly difficult to replace. On the Iranian front, the Israelis have knocked out several more headquarters buildings, including the headquarters of the Iranian Navy and also their headquarters of their military intelligence services. They have assassinated the leadership of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard's intelligence department, and they have continued to hit several more of Iran's ballistic missile launchers. You've probably over the course of this weekend seen the video of the missiles hitting Tel Aviv and Haifa in Israel, but you may note that the number of missiles being fired from Iran is rapidly dropping. I would guess that what has happened is that the Iranians have had so many of their launchers destroyed. They've had several of their storage depots where they kept the missiles destroyed, and also they've just simply fired hundreds of them. That they're running out of both missiles and, more importantly, running out of launchers with which to fire them. And the more they fire them, the more their launchers get blown up. So the more they shoot, the more they lose. I do think there are definitely more attacks coming on Israel from Iran. But I would point out that Iran's strategy of targeting civilian targets specifically, intentionally trying to hit, apartment buildings and housing complexes, has, just as I said it would, completely failed to deter the Israelis because it's done no damage at all to Israel's military capacity, not even a little. It has, however, cost the Iranians a great deal of their military capacity to do so. So either way, that's kind of the update on where we are in the war right now. What I wanted to do is talk about what is the end game. How does this war end? And there's a lot of discussion of regime change. Is that the goal of the Israelis? What I would suggest to you is I don't think the Israelis are trying to do anything to preserve the Iranian regime, but I do not think they're trying to take it out. They had opportunities to kill more of the political leadership. If they could have killed this much of the military and intelligence leadership, they could have hit the political leadership in the same time. They have opted not to. They don't seem to be doing anything to try to keep them safe. They also don't seem to be doing anything trying to target them. My guess is if you are the Israelis, you do not particularly want the regime to fall because you don't know what's going to replace it, and what replaces it might be just as bad. You also don't want that level of chaos in the region. You're not necessarily going to try all that hard to stop it from happening, but I don't think it's something that you're actively seeking. So if the regime is not going to change, what is the plan? As best I can tell, it is to destroy foundationally their nuclear program. They have assassinated many of their top scientists. They've assassinated some of their top engineers. They've destroyed a lot of their facilities. Some of Iran's most important facilities, however, are very deep underground in concrete reinforced bunkers that it is generally thought Israel does not have the power to destroy these. My guess is what you will see is actually, let me phrase that. We have already started to see the Israelis targeting air shafts to try to effectively cut the air supply to these underground facilities and basically bury everybody alive inside of them. It's a brutal strategy, but probably an effective one. And then the other parts of this seems to be to just simply rip up all of Iran's military and intelligence leadership and cripple that for many years to come, and then knock out their ballistic missile program. They've hit production facilities that make parts and equipment related to ballistic missiles, radar guidance, things like that. I would say that the longer term goal here is to do so much damage to the military and intelligence leadership, to the nuclear program, and to the ballistic missile capacity of Iran, that the Iranians, when this is all over, the mullahs remain in power, Khomeini remains in power, but that they are basically defanged. They simply don't have the infrastructure for any part of it. They don't have the military capacity, they don't have the intelligence capacity, they can't build the missiles, they can't build the nuclear equipment. They just can't do anything, and that this would represent tens of billions of dollars that Iran, which is a fairly poor country under heavy economic sanctions, has invested in this, will all simply be gone, and they'll be in the position of having to start from scratch and having to ask the question, do they really want to dump tens of billions of dollars into these programs with all the other problems that they're facing, knowing the Israelis are just going to show up and hit them again in a few years if they do. That also seems to be, I think, part of the long-term plan for the Israelis is to do so much damage to the Iranian air defense and air defense network and air force that the Iranians will remain wide open to Israeli attack for several more years. Again, meaning if Iran says, let's restart the nuclear program, as soon as they do, the Israelis just show up and start bombing that. And worst case scenario, the Israelis just start blowing up oil refineries, oil fields, gas fields, and just that is the lifeblood. That is the money that pays for everything for the Iranian regime. And if they cut those arteries, they just bleed out the entire Iranian regime. They have done that to a limited extent. They have hit some of those targets. They have not hit. There are, however, a lot more targets they have not hit. So I would say that the end game for the Israelis is to just simply rip the programs apart to the point to where the Iranians say it's just pointless. We're just throwing good money after bad. Now, is that how the Iranians are going to seek to finish this war? I don't know. I would expect if you're what's left of the surviving Iranian leadership, you've got two ways to look at it. One, go down with the ship. Go out, blaze of glory, fire off anything you can, fight as hard as you can. You're going to die. All your friends are going to die, and it's all going to be worthless. But hey, we see that happen in military history time and time again. The captain of the Bismarck knew that his ship was going to go down. He could have scuttled it in the middle of the night and saved his crew, and he decided to go down firing, knowing that he was going to lose all his men, and he did. I thought it was a terrible decision personally, but I'm not a German battleship commander. The other option for Iran is declare victory, say we won the war, and quietly behind the scenes surrender to Israel and make a deal for the Israelis to back off and drop your nuclear program. Pay your shills in the United States and Europe and other places to talk about what a big victory you had. And you'll get enough people to buy it that you'll get some bit of a PR victory, and that's their other option. That's their better option. That's what I would hope the Iranians would do. Just say, "Hey guys, we won the war," and then behind the scenes sign the surrender documents. It would not be the first time the Iranians had done something like that. So that's how I think this is all gonna end and where it's gonna go. Now, let's talk the really bad scenario here. The really bad scenario is that the Iranians manage to really, really piss off the Israelis. They do something that really makes them mad, and the Israelis decide we're going to level all of your oil and gas infrastructure. Because at that point, international prices for energy go through the roof, and we don't know what that brings. That level, or actually even worse, would be the Israelis take out Khomeini, and really cut the head off the regime, and Iran collapses into a civil war. No telling where that goes. Does Russia move in? Does Pakistan move in? Does India move in? What happens then? Do militant groups flood across the border into Iraq? There's no telling what happens there. So that's what I would say is probably the absolute worst case scenario. But again, I think this probably ends with the Iranians just being left with nothing but burnt rubble in terms of their ballistic missile and nuclear programs, and having to decide if they just want to throw what limited resources they have left at a program that they spent decades building and it all got blown up in a couple of weeks. So that's what I think, and hope everyone had a good Father's Day weekend, and I'll see you at my next video. Bye-bye.